In the summer of 480 BC, in a narrow mountain pass, between the cliffs of central Greece and the waters of the Malian Gulf, destiny took its most dramatic shape. Here, at Thermopylae, the Hot Gates, a small coalition of Greek warriors stood against the most powerful empire the ancient world had ever known. Outnumbered by hundreds to one, they fought not for conquest, but for survival, for freedom, and for a legacy that would echo across millennia. This is the story of courage that defied an empire. This is Thermopylae. Thermopylae was not an unexpected and spontaneous clash. It was actually the result of decades of persistent tension between the rapidly expanding Persian Empire and the fiercely independent and resilient Greek city-states. It was not a mere coincidence that a small Greek force chose this narrow and challenging pass to make their stand. Instead, we must return to a world that was already deeply shaped by the unsettling rebellion, the insatiable ambition, and the never-ending quest for revenge. These complex motivations ultimately drove the small Greek force to take a bold defensive stance at Thermopylae, in what would be one of history's most significant battles. By the late 6th century BC, the Achaemenid Empire stretched from the Indus Valley in the east to the shores of the Mediterranean in the west. Under King Cyrus, Cambyses, and Darius, Persia created a unified, highly organized multicultural empire unmatched in size and administration. Greek cities in Asia Minor known as Ionia were absorbed into Persian control, but in 499 BC, the Ionian revolt erupted, a rebellion supported by Athens in Eretria, small but symbolic. Darius vowed to punish the Greeks for interfering with his empire. His first invasion ended with a shocking defeat at Marathon in 490 BC. There, heavily armored, Greek hoplites smashed the Persian lines in a stunning victory that echoed across the world. But for Persia, Marathon was not the end, it was the beginning. When Darius died, his son Xerxes I inherited not only the empire, but the desire for revenge. Xerxes prepared for years, gathering what ancient sources claim to be the largest army ever assembled. Herodotus speaks of over 2 million soldiers, likely an exaggeration, but modern estimates still range from 150,000 to over 300,000 men. Persia brought everything: elite immortals, archers, cavalry, engineers, siege crews, and fleets from Egypt, Phoenicia, and Asia Minor. At Abydos, Xerxes built two massive pontoon bridges across the Hellespont, a feat of engineering so impressive that some historians compare it to the wonders of the ancient world. This was not just a military expedition, it was a declaration. The empire had come to crush Greek defiance once and for all. The Greek city-states rarely agreed on anything, but the Persian invasion forced unity, at least temporarily. 31 Greek states formed the Hellenic alliance. Strategists concluded that the best way to stop Persia's numerical advantage was to force them into narrow terrain. Thermopylae, a pass no wider than 15 meters in some places, became the chosen battlefield. Contrary to popular myth, the Greek army at Thermopylae numbered around 7,000 men. Among them, 300 elite Spartans, 700 Thespians, 400 Thebans, contingents from Corinth, Phocis, Arcadia, and others. The Spartans were not the largest group, but they were the core. Their king, Leonidas I, handpicked his 300 warriors not based on youth, but based on fatherhood. Only men with living sons were chosen, ensuring the bloodline of Sparta would survive the mission. It was a deliberate gesture. Leonidas was marching to his death. As the Persians approached, Greek scouts reported an ocean of men and horses. Yet in the Spartan camp, there was no panic, only ritual. Spartans calmly combed their long hair, oiled their bodies, and sharpened their spears. To Greeks and Persians alike, Sparta's discipline in the face of death seemed otherworldly. Herodotus tells us that when Xerxes learned the Spartans were grooming themselves, his advisors said, "They prepare themselves to die." Xerxes demanded the Greeks lay down their weapons. Leonidas answered with two immortal words, "Mol and Lab, come and take them." The Persians advanced in waves, but the pass nullified their numbers. Greek hoplites fought shoulder to shoulder, shields overlapping, spears thrusting in deadly synchronization. Persian weapons were lighter, their shields weaker. The narrow pass turned the battle into a corridor of death. By the end of the day, the Persian front was shattered. Frustrated, Xerxes unleashed his elite guard, the Immortals, 10,000 heavily armed warriors, distinguished by their embroidered robes, scale armor, and discipline, but the Greeks fought with tactical brilliance. Feigning retreat, they drew the immortals deeper, then pivoted into a countercharge that devastated the elite Persian ranks. Xerxes, watching from a golden throne, is said to have leapt to his feet 3 times, fearing for his army. The second day managed to repeat the initial situation. The Greeks opted to rotate their lines consistently, ensuring that fresh men were maintained at the front lines. In contrast, the Persians persisted in fighting unrelentingly, growing increasingly exhausted. The pass witnessed a filled multitude of bodies, a daunting obstacle that significantly hindered every attempt at an attack. Thermopylae might have held longer, perhaps days, had betrayal not intervened. A local Greek, Ephialtes, revealed to Xerxes a hidden mountain trail known as the Anapaya Path. This path would allow the Persian army to outflank the Greek position. Under torchlight, the immortals marched silently through the mountains, climbing above the sleeping Greek camp. At dawn, Leonidas learned the truth: he was surrounded. He dismissed most of the Greek army, preserving their lives for future battles. But he and his Spartans stayed, as did 700 brave Thespians who refused to leave. They fought with broken spears, then with swords, then with bare hands. Leonidas fell in the fiercest fighting. His body became the center of the battlefield, as Spartans fought desperately to protect their fallen king. 3 times they drove back the Persians, reclaiming his body before being overwhelmed. The final defenders retreated to a small hill, surrounded on all sides. Arrows darkened the sky, and so ended the last stand. Thermopylae was a tactical defeat, but a strategic triumph. The Persians lost precious days. Greek morale soared. The story of 300 Spartans spread like wildfire, inspiring resistance. Within weeks, the Greeks would score their decisive victory at the naval Battle of Salamis. Thermopylae is remembered today not as a story of death, but as a story of duty, sacrifice, and unbreakable will. A reminder that freedom often survives not because of numbers, but because of those willing to stand against overwhelming odds.